Over 1 million teachers use iExcel in their classrooms every day for one reason. They love it. Why? iExcel is where the magic happens. With just one platform, teachers can personalize learning for every student. iExcel gives teachers all the tools they need to enhance and differentiate instruction without adding work to their plates. Plus, iExcel has decades of expertise and has proven to be effective. Studies on more than 70,000 schools across nearly 50 states show that those who use iExcel outperform others on state tests. Ready to bring the magic to your school? Visit iexcel.com/PM to learn more.
You're listening to Monday Matters, a Principal Matters podcast production.
Hi, friends. This is Will Parker back with my co-host, Dr. Jen Schwanke, for another Monday Matters. And Jen, wow, we're in the middle of summer. I've had a lot of conversations with leaders as they wrapped up their year. You and I, by the time this comes out, we'll have been doing a lot of traveling. You're going to be in Italy. I have just come back from some wonderful days in Maryland and Ohio. I wanted to bring to the Monday Matters some thoughts as I look back at last year and lessons I learned working with leaders. And I was really curious to just share these with you because I'm curious what your thoughts are going to be on these too. But it's probably, I'm going to share a little too much because I wrote down 10. There's no way you and I ever get through that many. So can I just read them first?
Please. Yeah,
and
go
then,
ahead.
And then I want to just back up and take them one at a time. Because when I look back at the whole year of lessons I was learning from working with principals and masterminds and coaching, in full disclosure, I went back through all of my notes of conversations and I tried to pull them together. And my daughter, Emily, who's editing this podcast, is going to cringe when I tell her how I like to use it a lot. But I took some of those notes and I put them into ChatGPT and said, I want you to find the common themes that were coming out through these monthly conversations I was having with leaders. And it was really helpful because I was able to pull from that what I'm getting ready to read to you, just these things that kept coming up as themes. And it was really helpful because that's a lot of year to look back at. But here's the 10 that came out of looking back at all those notes and conversations. Lesson 1, leadership growth happens best in community, not in isolation. Lesson 2, curiosity is often more powerful than certainty. Lesson 3, small, consistent actions create long-term momentum. Lesson 4, reflection is essential to effective leadership. Lesson 5, leadership requires aligning systems with your purpose. Now I've got 5 more, so here we go. Lesson 6, healthy leadership includes caring for yourself and relationships. 7, leaders grow when they confront their limiting beliefs. 8, coaching questions often matter more than quick answers. 9, great leadership multiplies the strengths of others. And 10, this might have been my favorite, leadership is ultimately about becoming, not just accomplishing. And so when I think about those, Jen, and in fact, I'm looking at those and I realize I didn't even share those on your screen. I'm going to try to pull them up so that you can see them and maybe anyone watching this video version can see them too, if I can make that happen. What are some thoughts coming up to you, Jen? Because we're not going to be able to go through all of those, but pull something from that resonates with your experience.
Well, one of the things that stuck out to me as you were reading was number 7. And so why don't you read number 7 for us?
Number 7 says, leaders grow when they confront limiting beliefs.
That one kind of stopped me in my tracks as you were reading because I think there's a lot we could dissect with limiting beliefs. There you go. When you confront what you believe and anything that is that you believe that is getting in your way, boy, that feels uncomfortable, right? But that's where the growth happens. And I can look back probably at 10 different times in this past year where I was pushed to think beyond my beliefs or, things that I really thought were true or things I thought we can't do that for whatever reason. And then when I'm proven wrong, that is definitely when my growth happens. So number 7 jumps out at me. And you said number 10 might be your favorite.
Man, Jen, you and I were going to talk about this in another setting. I just came back from a trip with a friend sailing for a few days, and my son Jack got to come with me, and we were talking about the fact that the only way you can go upwind in a boat like that is to tack into the wind at an angle, and then you have to switch and tack into the wind at another angle. And it's all that tension and angles and harnessing the power of the wind that you're coming against to capture your sails and push you forward, where you realize like the other alternative would be to just never go against the wind.
Right.
But they're in leadership. It's inevitable that when you're trying to grow and do something you've never done, you're going to be pushing against resistance.
Mm-hmm.
And so the question is, how do you learn to, when you're up against your own limitations, how do you learn to change and adapt and grow so that you can harness that for the next movement?
Right.
Instead, what I find myself doing is trying to work really, really hard not to have resistance instead of learning how to lean into it. And so thank you for bringing that up. Any other thoughts on that thought before I go to 10?
Well, and I've talked about that quite a bit. I always want there to be no problems. That's how I measure my success. If there's no conflicts, if everybody's getting along, if everybody knows exactly what we're doing, but the growth doesn't happen there. And besides, those moments are fleeting and probably not even real. So, confronting not only limiting beliefs, but confronting conflict, confronting discord, confronting uncertainty. That ties too to one of my other favorites here, which is curiosity is more powerful than certainty. I want certainty. That's absolutely what I want. And I don't want conflict, but that's not where I get to be stronger as a leader. It's in uncomfortable places.
Yeah. So many thoughts. So I'll come back to curiosity in a minute, but that number 10 that stood out to me, I think one of the reasons it stood out to me is because I didn't realize how much in my own conversations that theme kept coming up until I was looking back at my notes. And you and I have talked about this so much that listeners are probably going to get tired of Will's obsessions, but part of that conversation happened when I spent so much time reading Wendell Berry fiction this year. Because when I think back to the beauty and the stories that he tells of what small farming communities, the outcomes that happen when you create the right conditions for growth and relationships and families, but also the beauty of the work itself. I was just on coaching a principal right before you and I began, and he was going back through the last 3 years he's been at his school, Jen. He has seen more graduates than they've had since 1978 because he's tracked the data. When he first went there, they were celebrating the fact that like 80% of their kids graduated every year, and it's almost statistically 100% now.
Wow.
That they're experiencing. He has adapted all kinds of leveling up programs for kids to connect with other mentors and he's done so much great work. And I kept saying to him, because he was already thinking about next year. And I was just like, dude, have you stopped to just celebrate what you guys are becoming? Not just what you're measuring, because those measurements are important, but also celebrating who you're becoming. Because he said to me that as he looks forward, he wants to go deeper doing the right next things. And so for me, that right next thing has to be, and he said this himself, I don't want my kids to just earn grades. I want them learning.
Right.
I want them learning. And man, Jen, I felt like, there's something there he's really understanding about what they're becoming, not just what they're accomplishing.
That's right. And, what a powerful message for students to get too. Like I was talking to my own children the other day and I said, man, I wish I could do high school over. I just was I was going for the grade, college too.
Yeah.
Because the grade was such a visible measure of my worth, I thought. I didn't ever think, well, wait a minute, what are we learning? I was just trying to pass the next test. And so if we have leaders who are not only thinking that way, but articulating that to their staff and their students and their communities, I certainly don't think it will fix this race to nowhere with grades. But if the leader believes that, that's a great start.
Yeah. Come back to that conversation around number 2. And by the way, Principal Matters listeners, if you're listening to this and you want to see the list, I've figured out how to share my screen with Jen. So you can watch the video version of this and actually just read that. It's titled Lessons from the Masterminds. But then there's 10 of these that I've just pulled from this year's experience. But 2 was curiosity is often more powerful than certainty. Let's sit on that for a minute, because I like to be certain, and I know as a younger leader, I was begging, please tell me what to do. So why do you think that even with our need for certainty, that curiosity is so important?
Right. My colleague really leans into this concept. She pulled it from Ted Lasso, and she has
Mm,
a big sign in her office that says, curiosity, not judgment.
mm,
And this is kind of a sister to that, right? Like,
yeah.
judgment does assume certainty, because if we're judging someone for not doing or thinking or saying like we want them to, then we are certain that they are wrong and we are right. Right. So
Hmm.
this curiosity of um leadership to me is not jumping to conclusions and not thinking we already know the answer, but instead being curious enough to say, tell me more about why you're thinking that way, or tell me how we got here.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know what you're thinking right now. Those kind of things that really frame curiosity as a place of wonder and learning rather than a place of, steadfast, certain assumptions and outcomes that may not be truly vetted or thought through.
Yeah. It is so tempting when you can see something where someone needs help, or there's a challenge, or there's fill in the blank. It's really tempting to try to apply the first thing you think of, or but the harder but better thing to do is to start asking questions.
Right.
And so it's one of the reasons, Jen, when I'm trying to meet with somebody and go deeper, I'll ask them some of those reflective coaching questions you and I like to use, which is, okay, but what else do you want me to know about that? Or what is the real challenge here for you when you're understanding that? So it's to be able to go deeper then gives you, um, then it opens up some clues that because I can make some real assumptions when someone starts describing a conflict. But once I can dig long enough, what is the impact that you really want to experience? Tell me what you've already tried. Those kinds of questions will lead me to some solutions too. That also works though in curiosity about people themselves,
Hmm.
because people want to know, they want to be known,
Right.
whether everybody believes that or not. I think people want to be known.
Right.
And when you're curious enough to know the people with whom you're working, then man, it builds cohesion.
Right.
You like showing up for each other, you like being together. So that works for students, that works for adults too.
Right. Right.
Anything else standing out from that list to you?
No, well, they're all so
Yeah, yeah.
excellent. I love coaching questions matter more than quick answers. It's so true.
Mhm.
As leaders, we want to give the quick answer and move on. But this is just a fancy way of doing that whole, bring a man fishing and he'll have a great meal, and teach him to fish and he eats the rest of his life. It's so important to coach people through it. And this takes discipline on my part because I want to solve for people. I
Yeah.
want to think about support in terms of doing things for people, but really the best answer is well, I don't know. What do you think? How can I help you
Confront.
make a decision here? And coaching rather than just informing.
Yeah. Well, Jen, I want to say this to Principal Matters listeners, because in our summer Monday Matters, some of these are going to be shorter than they are during the school year, because sometimes listenership uh, is less consistent when people aren't where they're normally going to be during the school year. But as you wrap up some of you, depending on where you are in the U.S., you're wrapping up school in June. Others of you wrapped it up back in May. Some of you may be listening to this while you're on vacation, but um, it's a fun practice to think back to, like, okay, what were some of the lessons that I learned this past year that I want to hold on to
Right.
as I look forward? And then now that I've looked back, let me look forward. Where are some places I want to grow, or what are some things I want to know more about? And so we'd love to hear your reflections too, things you've been learning or things you want to learn and know more about. But Jen, as we wrap up today, when this comes out, uh, you haven't left yet at the time of this recording for your trip to Italy, but just tell listeners a little bit of what you're going to be getting to experience in the days ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going on a global travel trip with a tour company that we may talk more about a little bit later, but I'll be chaperoning about 20 teenagers, including a teenager that lives in my house.
Yeah.
And we're going to Rome and Athens and the Greek Isles. So we're really looking forward to it.
Oh, I'm just so excited to think about all the learning and the
Yes.
beauty and the relationships and the memories you guys are going to build too. So kudos,
And the
Jen.
gelato and the
And the
pasta. I mean, let's add those in there, please.
and the espresso, because if I
Oh,
was there, man, I'd be getting
yep.
coffee every chance I got. Oh my gosh.
That's
All
right.
right, Jen. Well, Principal Matters listeners, thank you for reflecting on this week's lessons learned from leaders. And we'll have a link to those 10 things if you want to look back at them yourself in the show notes for this week. But Jen, how can our listeners stay connected with you?
Yep, they can find me through email or through my newsletter, Principal Problems, by going to my website, jenschwanke.com.
And you can find all of today's notes at my website at williamdparker.com. Or if you can't remember that, just go to principalmatterspodcast.com and you'll find everything there. So until next time, thanks for doing what matters. Find free resources like this one at williamdparker.com. Subscribe for our free weekly newsletter, which contains bonus material, and also check out the links for Grow Academy's Masterminds, executive coaching, and keynote presentations from my books, as well as from Principal Matters Associates. You can find out more under our speakers tab at williamdparker.com. Thank you for learning together, and thank you for doing what matters.
Monday Matters.